and welcome to Wrestle Talk with Arabbidb3aver. I'm your host, the elusive Arabbidb3aver, and joining me today is the man who's walking the walk, talking the talk, and the flame taker and heartbreaker. It is Spotlight Scotty Brooks. He's with me today. Scotty, how are you doing?
Doing great. You forgot to say 245 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal also. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a fun time. I want to take just a quick second to shout out to one of our show sponsors for February 21st, No Love Lost. I am here at the Marion Cigar Shop at one of the premier locations to enjoy a nice premium cigar and, come in, sit down, relax for about an hour, 2 hours, enjoy your time, smoke a cigar, make a new friend. Stop by, tell Tim and Sean and John that Scotty says hello.
Awesome. So, Scotty, this is the first time for you being on Wrestle Talk with Arabbidb3aver, and we have a lot to discuss, but let's start way back.
Lord.
How did you get into professional wrestling? What did you watch? Who is your favorite?
Oh man. So when I was but a wee little boy growing up in the hills of North Carolina, my father was a professional wrestling fan. He was a cop and or a magistrate for 47 years. Now, the reason I tell you that is he was a cop in the 70s and 80s when the NWA used to come to small towns like mine, Marion, North Carolina, Spindale House, things like that. So he would always work the matches. A funny side note, one night he confiscated a set of brass knucks off of a fan and then turned around and sold them to Sergeant Slaughter for $20. So my father was a fan, and that really just got me into it from there. And from there, it just grew and grew and grew. I remember growing up, my first obsession was probably the Rock and Roll Express with Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. And then, of course, as a young child, every kid loved the Road Warriors. But I was, being born in '84, I came up in that Sting era of the NWA and WCW. So loved Sting. And then as the 90s grew, became a huge Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart fan. So loved those guys. And then, NWO, DX, and so on and so forth. I grew up in probably the greatest time for professional wrestling from the golden era of the 80s all the way through the Ruthless Aggression era. You can't get, Attitude Era is right there in between, probably the greatest 4 years of wrestling ever, and just, as we've migrated to where wrestling wasn't cool, and now all of a sudden it's one of the coolest things on the planet again.
And absolutely, that's awesome. And you mentioned the Rock and Roll Express, and a lot of people, you were either a Rock and Roll Express fan or you were a Midnight Express fan, but there wasn't people who were both during that time period, because beautiful Bobby Eaton had just such a little bit of an evilness to him, and Robert Gibson had that really hard hitting pride. So both of those people kind of clashed a little bit whenever they got in the ring, but it was magic each and every time you got to see them fight.
Absolutely. I mean, Ricky kind of reminded me, I guess that's the reason I really migrated towards Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was obviously the Ricky Morton of that group, if you go back and watch the Rockers back in the day. So, you talk about how many people did the Rock and Roll and the Midnight Express both influence. I mean, both of them influenced myself later on in my career. Let's talk about that for just 2 seconds. Let's talk about how the Midnight Express. I actually got to wrestle beautiful Bobby Eaton in 2005 in Bristol, Tennessee, in the main event. First time I ever showed up, they looked at me and said, "Yeah, we've seen you wrestle. You can go with Bobby." And it was going to be myself and Ricky, but Ricky had a family emergency that night, so they just said, "Hey, we're going to scrap it. You and Bobby, here you go." And, that ended up being that's probably the first time that I ever worked a name ever in the business, or, somebody that was already an established name, because we can get to all that here in a little bit. But yeah, that was probably one of the best things that ever happened. Bobby kind of take y'all to the side, tell you what you done. Ricky Morton was a mainstay in the locker room, take y'all to the side, tell you what you did right, what you did wrong. And, now it's off to the next town next weekend.
Well, then you moved from a little lad, you moved from watching it. How did you get into the business? How did you get involved, and who trained you?
Oh, this is the evil sin of independent wrestling and professional wrestling. I started out as a backyard wrestler in my teenage years. Um, and not the crazy type of backyard wrestling. Yeah, we had that, like where we were beating each other up. You know, certain guys wanted to do that with the stop signs and the metal chairs and pile drivers on cars and everything. Yes, I did all that, but we also knew how to work a match before that. So to set the scene, junior year of high school, maybe even my sophomore year of high school, spring semester, um, school newspaper runs an article about this backyard wrestling fed. Well, I knew 70% of the guys, so I just called them up one night and said, "Hey, I'd like to participate." And boy, was I in for a rude awakening. Fast forward, these guys knew like knew how to cut a promo, how to put a match together. You know, they'd never taken a bump, but they knew how to lock up. They knew how to take the arm. They knew how to do every bit of that. And it was, fast forward just a couple of years later. Again, my father comes into play. The event center was ran here. That it was the McDowell Recreation Center. They would run wrestling every so often, and you always had to have a representative of the county or the state in the rec center, and then they charged a fee. And whenever they charged their fee, that's one of those things that the person running the rec would collect. Sorry, looking down. Hey Ben, nice to see you. But anyway, so my father would run the venue, and then as a courtesy to letting them in, they would take all of us boys that were wrestling in the backyard after we helped set up this old WWE ring, not the one with the flex beams and the things that these kids do nowadays. This is the one that had the spring in the middle of it that hurt every time you hit it. So, we had to set that thing up. It'd take 2 hours, 3 hours to set up because you had to take the sheets of plywood and drill them down and things of that sort. So, came up doing that, and they taught us how to bump. There was one there by the name of J.D. Sullivan who became a mentor to us, who had worked a few WCW tapings and things of that sort. And he started teaching myself and one of the other people. He'd probably get mad at me for saying this. I'm not going to call his name just yet, but he's a current one half of the AEW Tag Team Champions at this moment, as of right now. You never know about tomorrow. But, he was one half. He and I were part of that group. There were some others within that group, and we just started moving right along. And it wasn't long before our guys who knew we knew more than the guys that were allowing us to wrestle, but we knew less than we didn't know what we didn't know, so to speak. So pretty soon on those shows, we were main eventing those, and then we started branching out and going to other promotions in the area. Shout out to Bobby Cosby, who ran it was called New Blood back in the day. New Blood Championship Wrestling had one of the best promotions in Western North Carolina at the time. And he invited us down, and I got 20 plus years to go over. You sure you want to do this?
Yeah,
and I just threw about 5 in there in about 9 minutes. So
yeah, but that's a good thing, because you got to realize that where you're at and where I'm at are two totally different worlds in wrestling.
Right, right.
Yourself to a brand new audience who have maybe never seen you or maybe never heard of you before. So for them to get the backstory is very, very light telling and very shedding to know who you are. And
I agree 100%.
You got to remember, people have promoters that watch this show constantly. They
right.
People based upon the show, based upon what's happened. So, it's not a bad thing that you have a good backstory or a long backstory or a long history. And we just want to know, hey, who this man is.
Absolutely.
How to find it.
Absolutely. Sorry, I just about cut you off like 3 times. I apologize for that. But so anyways, at New Blood Championship Wrestling, I'll tell a funny story then. I was a little cocky little thing, and still am a little bit. But anyways, walking into building. There's this older gentleman standing there, hair kind of style like mine. And, first thing he looks at me and says, "Hey, do you know who the promoter is?" And I was like, "Oh, it's that guy over there," gave him the little point, handshake and everything. Turned around, walked off. And first thing I said to myself was, who doesn't know who the promoter is? I didn't realize how things are nowadays. And I was like, who doesn't know that? And then walk into the locker room, see Ricky Morton. First time I meet him, it was amazing. George South is there. And then all of a sudden, the same guy that walks up to me with my haircut comes out and puts his hand out and says, "Hey, man, thanks for the help. I'm Sweet Stan Lane." I was like, "Oh, my God." So needless to say, I didn't say that to him, but, knowing what I was thinking after that, I felt about yay big, like that. But it ended up being one of the nicest human beings I've ever met. And Ricky and Stan actually ended up watching the match and pulling us off to the side. One of the guys that was in the backyard with me, shout out to Tom Williams. Tom, we love you, brother. I hope everything's going well with you. He gives us this, they say, who's baby, who's heel, and they give us some spots to run. We run them. It was a quote unquote dark match on the indies, so to speak. And we had a great match. And our psychology was off a little bit, but this is like our first 10 matches, one of our first 10 matches. So, but other than that, everything was really, really good. And so Stan and Ricky saw that, and they were willing to teach us a little bit. So went from there and started, going all over the place. At the time in 2004, 2005, 2006, Chief Jay Eagle at American Pro Wrestling. That was one of the spots to be also. I mean, this guy would run every Saturday night in Chesney or Spartanburg, South Carolina, and he was drawing 150, 200, 250 on a weekly basis. That's unheard of now.
Right. Yeah.
That's very much unheard of. So anybody that runs like that, and he was the type of guy that as long as you had your South Carolina license and you were halfway trained, hey, I'll give you matches to make you better. And if you want a storyline, well, if you've got something you want to ride out and that guy wants to work it with you, go right on ahead. And hey, I'll give you a little bit of mic time. Now, the problem with that was everybody that showed up, he tried to accommodate in some way, shape, or form. So there were nights where there'd be 13 matches, 14 matches on the card, starting at 7:30 and not getting out of there till midnight. So, and it's appreciative. But now looking back, you learn how much that might have actually hurt the crowd. And, you thought you were awesome going on match 11 out of 12, but then whenever you get out there, 70% of the crowd's gone, and you're like, where did everybody go?
Well, I came from a different perspective into professional wrestling. We were in television, we were in audio and broadcasting, and that side moving into professional wrestling was harder for us. So we learned like production. We learned how to put up lights, put up camera, make sure everything.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, we never were really inside the ring a lot. I mean, we did get inside the ring, but it was mostly to take bumps, and that was about it. And I'm just going to tell you, Harley Race told me flat out, he said, "Son, hell's going to freeze over before you get in the ring again." So, I'm just going to be honest with you. I've been in those situations, but he was very gracious. He was very gracious with us, and he worked with us really well and made us understand the opposite side of the business first, and why it was important to put out chairs, why it was important to sell tickets, why it was important to make sure that you had a crowd that was there and that the crowd stayed in it. And if he felt like something was going on too long, we're cutting it. Your match is off. Like we're gonna use you, and we'll do a dark match with you, but your match is off for the night, and we'll record this and put it on the internet or whatever we've got to do. He was very, very well at reading the crowd and what was going on, and he made sure that the crowd was taken care of first, because he knew that if he lost them, he lost his business. So yeah. And he was just right on top of it. So I'm very grateful for that side of it and learning some of that stuff first. But the other thing that pops up whenever you start talking about stuff like this is whenever you've got a promoter that is running 100 to 150 every show, how do you keep them coming back. And it's like you said, you have to have great storylines, you have to have great matches, and you have to have great competitors that they're involved in. So I know you have had a great storyline running the past couple years with one TNA heavyweight champion, Mr. Frankie Kazarian. And would you like to introduce us into how that started?
Okay, so are we shooting here, or are we staying kayfabe? I mean, I'll ask you. How would you like to prove? Yeah, kayfabe answer is I don't want to pull the curtain back too much, but I will here in a second. Kayfabe answer is so I'm going to tell you something that's not going to sound like it connects, but it does. So sitting in a cigar shop, because my day job is I'm a cigar rep. So sitting in a cigar shop in Boiling Springs, South Carolina, in I think it was January of 20, or no, it was the spring of 2023. I just went to work for Aladino Cigars, and this app. I get this newsletter every day from Arnold Schwarzenegger called the Pump Club, and they announced the app is coming out, and it's available to the first 500 people that sign up on a lifetime member basis, and you get free tickets as part of that to the Arnold Classic. So in that amount of time, I was running with a couple of different promotions. One that is no longer there, but they're talking about starting back up, which was Ring of Fire Wrestling in Hickory, North Carolina, Hickory, Newton, that area. And my hand's getting tired. Holding this thing. So, anyways, I wasn't too smart as to go out, get the computer, get the camera and the microphone and all that. Sorry, but so, anyways, I take the belt. And, I walk up to some bodybuilders, some big name bodybuilders. One was Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler. Another one was, oh, God, what was that girl that, oh, my God. She used to wrestle in AEW, and she was she was a wellness competitor too. Oh, my God. I can't, and she has her own line of supplements too. Anyways. Who?
Was it Grace?
No. Jordan was more of a female bodybuilder. This girl was, I don't want to say the word feminine, but a little bit more feminine than Jordan Grace. But anyways, that oh God, Kayla Rossi.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's who it was. Sorry. So talking to Kayla and everything, and about that time, Kayla says, "I know somebody." So I go out, I cut this promo, say, I'm here at the Arnold Classic. I've done everything I can. I've challenged mixed martial artists, boxers, powerlifters, bodybuilders, you name it. I've went because I've beaten everybody in the Carolinas. I've beaten everybody around who's willing to step up. And I threw that promo out there, and then lo and behold, the king of TNA answers the call. And it was, now we're on June 1st, 2024. Here we go. And we build up to it. And we have a great match in which I beat him the same way that the Bruce Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith beat Bret Hart in 92. He goes for the sunset flip. I hook the legs and, sit down, 1, 2, 3. But anyways, we go on, and then later that year, I call him out, tell him I'm ready for another match, and we come to my hometown of Marion, North Carolina, for a last man standing match. Frankie whoops my ass, yeah, for lack of a better term. He had some help. Big old 6'4", 500-pound man by the name of Big Country and his goons and a few others. But that's okay. It happens, so to speak. And then later last year, 2025, we have the final match in the trilogy, which ended up being a no holds barred, no disqualification, Falls Count Anywhere match back in Marion, North Carolina, in which I, firmly secured my victory once again. And now there's rumblings that we might be wrestling for a fourth time. So at the moment that happens, I've got a couple of people that will get the exclusive scoop, and I promise you, Mr. Hughes, you will be one of the first ones to know.
So you mentioned this last man standing match. Now I got a chance to watch this, and as you said, he had a lot of help from, as you called him, the 6'5" goon. When you're in the moment, it makes you feel a certain way when stuff happens to you like that. And you've had some time to let it kind of build and move away a little bit, but do you still get as angry as you did that night?
Because Christmas night that year, he and I had a career versus career match, and I'm still wrestling and he's not. So
you got to settle that. You got to settle everything inside as you're supposed to. You took it to the 18x18 or 20x20 or 16x16 and made sure that you were victorious and that person is not. They had to leave their boots in the center of the ring, as we like to call it, the old retirement match.
Yes, sir.
Scotty, you came out on top.
Yeah, and I just want to reflect for just 1 minute for a second. 2024 was an amazing year for me. I won a few titles. I also tagged with Austin Aries and tagged with Jay Lethal of AEW. I wrestled Frankie Kazarian twice, and 3 times within a year span. I debuted at the Superman Festival for a promotion in Tennessee, up in Metropolis, Illinois. That one was fun. I also wrestled a guy who would later become a really good friend of mine, the incredible Justin Lee out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I went to Tulsa and wrestled at Wrestling for a Cause against Hunger. I went to Nashville, and I was a part of TNA, in which the Hardys whooped my ass also all over the place. I did I got to do a TNA spot with Steve Macklin and Eric Young and Josh Alexander. So, 2024 was probably one of the best years. Might have been one of the best years of my life, not just in wrestling, but in general. So,
well, Scotty, it's not over with yet because you've still got a lot of stuff going on, including Saturday, February 21st at none other than the Box Factory, 29 Logan Street, Marion, North Carolina. You're going to be facing one little man that we like to call the Painter, the man with the artist brush, Jake Painter. And look at this beautiful card you got set up here. James Johnson's going to be there. Of course, Spotlight Scotty Brooks is right there front and center. Jake Painter is going to be there. Mickey Rickards, Josh Powers, Christopher Prince, and the Whiskey Business is all going to be there live and in action, and so many more. We're going to talk about a little bit of it right here tonight. But Lord, look at here. You've got it right here. It's going to be taking place Saturday, February 21st at 7 p.m. Scotty Brooks, you're going to be taking on Painter. How do you feel about this match?
Well, it's funny that I mentioned TNA because and having that spot on TNA, because if you go back and watch that spot that I was involved with on TNA, Jake Painter was also involved with that. And that's one of the things that he said in his little dig at me was that, as I watched his career take off, with OVW and TNA, and now he's doing this. But if you think about it, in that amount of time, my career has been just as bright and full of spotlights as his has. I'm main eventing everywhere I go. I'm putting in, promoters look at me as somebody to draw with. So I'm still wrestling top tier talent, maybe not in front of the national TV audience, but back in December, I just wrestled Elijah Drago in Anderson, South Carolina. You want to talk about a guy that should be the next Brock Lesnar. Holy crap. The guy's amazing. But, but anyways, let's go back to Jake Painter. Jake wants to run around and he wants to say that his career has went here while mine has slowly been slow and steady. Jake, that's fine, well, dandy, whatever you want to say. But, February 21st at the Box Factory, doors open at 6, by the way. Bell time's at 7 o'clock. for all those fans. And there is a link to get tickets, which I can post in the comments after this. We're going to see who the man is. Ric Flair says to be the man, you got to beat the man. Well, I'm standing right here. Actually, I'm sitting right now, but I'm right here. So, and I'm going to be there. We've signed the match. It's ready to go. I just can't wait to get in the ring and, show him that just because he's the guy that got the contract or whatever it is that he's got right now with TNA, that, sometimes the best guy doesn't always get chosen first.
Well, Scotty, I'm not going to throw salt on an open wound. We got to meet Jake earlier in the year at, it was Christmas for the Kids for Pro Wrestling Entertainment, and he was very kind and nice to us and very gracious. He spoke to us about TNA, and he was very grateful for the shot. But he did make a shot there while we were talking to him, and he said that he would take on anybody at any time, any place who thought that they could beat him. So he may have been pointing that out to you to kind of throw salt in the wound. Do you think that he was really kind of digging at you there?
I mean, come on, let's just go ahead and, call it what it is. I don't know if you know this or not, but Jake was a little jealous because, the week before I was with TNA again in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And then that week, the next week, I was wrestling Frankie Kazarian in the main event, the match that you saw, but Jake couldn't get above the second match on the card. So maybe it's the other way around. There's a little jealousy there because maybe he's thinking that he's been up here in these clouds and he's up here, but maybe promoters just aren't taking him serious enough, and he's looking for a name. Whenever he goes back out there, it's somebody that he knows that if he beats them, it puts him on a certain level everywhere. So, maybe that's what it is. When I was listening to him talk, he sounded a little snarky, and a little, like, oh, I'll come there to your little promotion and I'll help you out. You're my buddy. Yeah, well, buddies don't act like that. You kiss my ass, Jake.
Well, here's a question for you. So let's say, and I mean, no disrespect by this, Mr. Spotlight, Mr. Brooks, let's say Jake.
I like that, Mr. Spotlight. I like that.
Let's the victory on the 21st. Will you challenge him at OVW?
I mean, we'll see. There is a possibility that I will be getting a shot at OVW very soon. We'll see with that. Weather also plays a big deal in that also, and some other things play a big deal with that. So, it might be later this spring. It might be in the summer. But, yeah, I mean, I plan on hopefully one of these days being in OVW, and I hope to God that if Jake Painter beats me in my hometown, then, yes, I want to go to his backyard in Louisville, Kentucky. I want to go to his backyard in Nashville, Tennessee, where he lives, and I want to, I want to give him a wrestling lesson. I want to show him what 20 plus years in the business. Well, with a little bit of a break for about 6 years in between, but I want to show him what that means. I want to, sometimes these kids get a little cocky and they don't know what's good for them, and sometimes you don't get, you go call the old dog, the big dog off the porch, you end up getting your butt kicked. And, that's fine. That's fine. It's okay, Benji. You'll make it back home.
All right, Scotty, we got to get back to the 21st, though. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that's happening there, including this next match that's going to be taking place. And I've got to ask you, James Johnson is the USA main event heavyweight champion there, and he's going to be taking on Josh Powers. Do you have a prediction on this match?
Josh is very hungry. He's a phenomenal athlete. But James just won the title. So this will actually be James's first title defense. It's hard. I got to go with the champion on this one. I mean, I have to. Champions, the champion's advantage. You kind of got to look at it that way. James Johnson is one of those guys that for the last, ever since I've been back in the business, which was late 2021, James has been performing at a very high level. So, he's one of those names that you hear all the time here in the Carolinas, and he's a phenomenal competitor. And, I wish him nothing but the best. But Josh Powers can be just as nasty as the next guy, so we'll see what happens.
Scotty, let's just cut the bullshit for just a second. Are you just a little bit jealous that he's got that title, and do you want it?
Well, yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to be champion? But no bullshit here. I want the title, absolutely. But I'll earn my way to it. Let's just put it that way.
All right.
And I've also been known to break a few rules and to get what I need or what I want. So I've not always been the little choir church boy that a lot of people think that I am. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I hope he's watching tonight because you just made some big words for him in the future, and it's giving him something to think about because he's got a huge target on his back with that title. But let's move on. Christopher Prince taking on Andre Scaro. What do you think about this, sir?
Okay, so I'm going to be perfectly honest here. I'm not like one of my really good friends that's Mr. Know-It-All, Bill Hazelwood, one of the best announcers around here that knows everyone and has seen everyone wrestle and can give you an opinion. So I've never seen Andre Scaro wrestle, okay? But I have seen Christopher Prince. And Christopher Prince, he's one of those guys that's a cruiserweight, middleweight, however you want to call it, that he reminds me, not in his wrestling style, but just his ability. He reminds me of Rey Mysterio. He's not the jumpy all around, but that maybe I guess Dean Malenko / Eddie Guerrero would be a better comparison. Like late Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, can wrestle with anybody, and I've stepped in the ring with him one time, and man, he's as good as they come. So, and that's regardless of what anybody else thinks about him. I think he's a phenomenal talent, and but from what I hear about Andre Scaro, I hope I'm saying that right. I think he's from what I've seen of him, it's going to be a really good match. That's one of those that listen, I will go ahead and say this. I'll get this out just so I'm not always saying this whole card is loaded with talent. I mean, it is a phenomenal wrestling card. So, make sure you're there. And from top to bottom, opening match to main event is going to be one of the best matches or one of the best cards in the Carolinas within the first quarter of 2026. I almost said 2025. Sorry.
I would agree with you, sir. I do think that he is quick and fast and on point. But moving forward, Thomas Extreme is going to be versing Brian Hitt. Any predictions here?
Well, that's one of those things that I might actually keep my eyes on. Thomas Extreme is a competitor. He and I have stepped in the ring a few times. He's check out the picture right there. He's got the backwards S. What's the comic book character that did that? Oh my gosh, he's a huge comic book fan. I don't want to do him any disjustice. Who is it that did that? The backwards S in DC Comics.
Well, it was. If you would have put it on me, I'd have been able to tell you.
Because I see the Superman poster there in the back.
Yeah, well, these are all my wife's, believe it or not. She loves comics, so she's big on them.
I apologize. That was my fault for assuming, because it makes an ass out of you and me.
Well, no, you're totally fine. But I know in the death of Superman, he had a comeback, and they had the S on backwards for him for a while. But there was another character that had it as well for a short period of time.
Right.
The name of the character, you just threw it on me, and it just went.
But anyways, if you think of it, but I mean, Thomas Extreme is one of those guys that you hear the expression can wrestle a broomstick, or can take a mop out there and have a great match with it. Thomas Extreme's that guy. And then Brian Hitt, the reason I'm going to have my eyes on this, Brian is one of those guys that's from the area that Jake Painter's from. So, I feel if I can watch that match, if that's going to be on before me, maybe I can get a little bit more into the insight of what Painter likes to do, because I know they've wrestled each other. So maybe if I put him in some of those compromising situations that Brian Hitt has put Jake Painter in, then maybe I've got an inside track there. But Brian Hitt's a phenomenal talent too.
Scotty, you bring up something really good here, because the more chemistry you have with somebody and the more you work somebody, you start to build camaraderie with them, and you start acting like them a little bit. You start having that, like, iron sharpens iron, because you know each other so well. So that's a very, very good observation there by wanting to watch Mr. Hit and seeing exactly what's going on with him. That's an extremely well observation on your part, and I hope it plays out for you the 21st of February. We know Whiskey Business, though, is going to be having a giant match there against Grant Crystal, and I don't want to mess this man's name up, but Mike Moggin.
No, Mon. The G and the H are silent, and Grant Kistel there. Grant's one of those guys, man. He's phenomenal. Mike Mon is also. I've actually had the pleasure of stepping in the ring with him once or twice. Whiskey Business, what can I say? When I tagged with Austin Aries, they were with Big Country that night. They were in his corner also. And, man, you want to talk about one hell of a tag team. Now, I've wrestled each one of them one-on-one with each other in their corner, and got a couple of wins over them one-on-one. And myself and Aries, Chase Emery, we also took the W that night from them. So that's a team, though, that, man, they're right there. Like, if somebody could give them the right opportunity, they are so good. They are so smooth in the ring. I don't see many teams in the Carolinas. I don't see a lot of teams nationwide that could really beat them. Around here, I would say they're a top 3, top 5 tag team easily. And, not breaking character or anything too much, or kayfabe as they call it. But promoters, if you're watching, if you're listening, give these guys a call, pay them what they want to be paid, get them out there. They are phenomenal.
They remind me a lot of the Troublemakers, and they also remind me a lot of the Heat Seekers from the National Wrestling Alliance.
Yes.
Also, hey, I mean, they really have that flair and that flame going through them, and they are just phenomenal competitors inside the ring. So I am very
absolutely.
Moving on, we got Tommy Okami and Mickey Richards going to be taking part of that great no love loss there, going on the 21st of February. What can you say about Mickey Richards? He's been all over the place, and he's been on a hot streak as of late.
Yeah, he and I, we go way back. We've been competitors. We've been partners. We don't necessarily get along all the time, but I go to the same gym as the guy. I respect him. I love him as a person. He's phenomenal. And then there's this little piece of, whale feces, Tommy Okami, who wishes he could be a pimple on my ass. The last show, the last match I had in Marion, North Carolina, I kind of had to take him out back, take him to the woodshed, and show him what was what. But, at the same time, that one could be up for grabs. You got the youthful exuberance of Tommy Okami, and you've got you've got that really, really great veteran presence of Mickey Richards. Mickey is, like I said, I would say we're about even. We've wrestled 100 times. I've beat him 50 times. He's beat me 50 times. Mickey is just one of those guys that, you think you got him, and then he'll pull something out, very veteran-like, and then you're like, well, what in the world just happened? So I love Mickey as a competitor, love him as a person. Don't always get along with him, but, man, he's going to be a tough one, and I think Tommy's got his hands full that night. But on the flip side of that, Tommy's a big boy. Tommy's about 6'3", 6'4", 255 pounds. Tommy's one of those guys that, could at any moment end Mickey Richards' career. So let's just, let's call it what it is and say, this one is another one that's going to be a barn burner right there.
I had a boxing coach who told me one time, all it takes is just one. One. holidays, you're out. And that could be what happens here. And we just don't know. I mean, but I'm going to give Mickey Richards the up on this one. I'm going to give him the thumbs up on this one because I believe that he's got what it takes, not only the veteran presence, but he's got what it takes mentally, physically, and emotionally to pull it together inside that ring against him.
That's I couldn't agree more. But at the same time, I'm one of the very few people that's actually stepped in the ring with both of them. Tommy Okami hits really hard. I mean, he hits and slams really, really hard. So yeah, I mean, it could easily go either way. As a matter of fact, one of my best matches that I've had in a long time, I had with a guy that's touring all over. I think he might have even made his debut with MLW recently, D'Angelo. So myself, Tommy, and D'Angelo, we had a triple threat at a place in South Carolina. And I had that match won. I hit Tommy with a little bit of sweet chin music, but he fell on to D'Angelo, and I couldn't get there in time. So, sometimes it happens.
Well, guys,
it makes you wonder too. Maybe if we'd have had Bill Hazelwood that night announcing, maybe I would have had somebody to get me up a little bit, with his great announcing style.
Oh, absolutely. Because, that's a good point you make, because there are some people out there that can carry people no matter what and lift them up through anything that happens inside that ring. And Bill is one of the best. Live pro wrestling is going to be taking place Saturday, February 21st, 2026 at the Box Factory in none other than Marion, North Carolina. That's 29 Logan Street. Come on out. Scan that QR code at the top left-hand corner of your screen today. You do not want to miss a moment of the action. Doors are going to be opening at 6 p.m. The bell time is going to be at 7 p.m. Tickets available are going to be at the door the night of the event. If you're wanting to just show up, you can get more information at USA Main Event Wrestling on Facebook. And the card is always subject to change. We have to say that because you don't ever know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Also, before we get down through there, I would like to take a moment to thank a lot of our sponsors. Community Thrift Store and Marion Bargain Mart, man, they sponsored this entire show. Thank you for that. And then we got some other sponsors down there. Marion Cigar Shop, thank you for allowing me to come here and do this podcast in a nice area. Marion Tire's always there with us, as is Will Trotter Media. Shout out to Will for doing the poster. A&M Armory, phenomenal. Angel Wings, Westmoreland Funeral Home. Go see Tyler Mace up there if you're having some, if you got some family members or something, and it's that time, whether a pet or a loved one is going through that time at the end of their life. Anchor Plumbing is another one that is just absolutely great. Jimmy Parker, shout out to him and Ryan Cook at Marion Tire. And then you got Killo's Music and Loan and Ingenious Coffee Roasters and Mountain Motors. I mean, all these places here in Marion, North Carolina, and I might be missing one. And if I am, I apologize 100%, because this thing is really small on my screen right now. But I apologize for that. But yeah, man, go see all these great sponsors. Go see all these great businesses. You'd be a great patron for them. Go buy a car at Mountain Motors. Josh Smith, Joey Raven, two of the greatest people that I've ever met in my life, childhood friends of mine, and want to say thank you for sponsoring us, guys, and to every business. Thank you for sponsoring us.
All right. Now, Spotlight Scotty Brooks, you've got a big match February the 21st with Jake Painter we know about. Is there anything special going to be coming up after that? Are you booked anywhere? Where are you booked at? And how can we book you if we're interested?
Well, you can always hit me up on social media. Joel Williams 1281. Spotlight Scotty Brooks on Facebook and TikTok. Spotlight Scotty Brooks with the dots and all that. I don't know where it's at, but all you got to do is find me. Reach out to me anywhere on social media, and we can talk. He'll really feel comfortable giving my phone number out. I'm old school. Give me a call. Give me a text. Shoot me a message. Let's see, some great matches coming up. Like I said, we are looking here eventually to, love that picture right there, me elbow dropping Frankie Kazarian. Wow, what a great picture. Shout out to Kiwi Photography for doing that. T.Kiwi Photography. Wow. We got some, there's some places, Ben Wolf, I'll be with him February 28th. I'm talking with Jimmy Ward about coming in there in March, April. I think it was April and May. We had talked about or March and May, somewhere in there. We were talking this morning. I also want to give a shout out to another friend of mine who runs who had a media company, walked away from it. Ron Emerson. Ron, missed your podcast. Not trying to plug another guy's podcast on here, but
Right.
Miss your podcast, man. Miss the weekly stuff. Thank you, Bobby Lee. Great guys. Also, look forward to being on there soon. We also have some. Great. Let's see some other places that we're talking to right now. Sorry, got a little distracted here in the cigar shop. Didn't think it was going to be busy tonight, but I was wrong. But yeah, there's some matches. See No Evil Wrestling has me. Next Level Pro Wrestling. Tony James, Hang Time, Trays, those guys down there, man, they put together. That's probably one of the hidden gems in the Carolinas. Nobody knows about them past Charlotte. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, those guys are phenomenal. American Lucha down in Burlington, I'll be there. Those guys they always put on a great show. God, I'm trying to think of all my bookings. I should have, a smart guy would have printed this out and had it ready to go. I was like, oh no, I can wing it.
and just we'll post it. So if you have anything that's not mentioned here tonight and you want to correct it, just give it to us and we'll post a date for you and we'll get a good picture set up of you, like that one where you're elbow dropping Kazarian, and we'll get something going good for you.
Oh yeah, well I appreciate that. But yeah, it's a fun business. Let's just say that.
Absolutely. Now, I've got a question for you that I normally don't ask anybody that's normally on my show, but we booked for several different shows here, and I was wondering if you'd be interested sometime in coming and talking on River City Media to open you up towards the Chattanooga, North Georgia area so that people down there can get a hold of you as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm always looking to have more bookings, that's one thing I do want to give young wrestlers that are listening to this, other wrestlers that are listening to this right now. Here's a little piece of advice. Do you know how you get on TNA? Do you know how you get on WWE? It's not through some great trainer. There's some great trainers out there that do have some great connections. Absolutely. But it's not necessarily all the time through that. You've got to get out and you've got to make the connections and you've got to become more famous, so to speak, for the regular person, not breaking too much kayfabe, but you've got to become more famous, more star power all over the country. So yes, I would love to have bookings in Northern Georgia and Chattanooga to go along with Nashville and South Carolina and North Carolina and Tulsa, Oklahoma and Kentucky and West Virginia. Well, I mean, yes, if you are listening to this and you like what you hear and you go on YouTube and you find me and you like the matches that you see, yes, please reach out to me. I will gladly show up and I will gladly put on a show that nobody else can put on it for you. Why? Because I can. In the words of the great immortal Shawn Michaels, give you a show like you've never seen before. Why? Because I can. But, going back to that, you've got to get out. You've got to go to these places because if you wrestle the same guy week in and week out, and you get to know those guys, it's not like the NWA, like where, okay, yeah, you're in this program here for 8 weeks and you're wrestling the same guy for 8 weeks. But those guys at the end of that 8 weeks or that 90 days or 120 days or 180 days, however long it would take, they were all to a new territory.
Right.
Or if they were in WWF in the 80s, Savage and Steamboat might wrestle, but then one of them's off to Rick Rude or The Warrior or Ultimate Warrior or Hulk Hogan the next 3 or 4 months. And then they're working with somebody else, Jake Snake Roberts. So, go around, wrestle your buddies. That's great. But, at the same time, don't be afraid to get out there and get better. And if you have a bad experience somewhere, this is one of my biggest pet peeves. Don't go and blast it all over social media the very next day or that night. And then the other thing, don't go and say, oh, me and my buddy, we had a great match tonight. You mean just 2 hours ago, I was at the show, I was watching you. You hated that son of a bitch. And then now you're talking about how great of a guy he is on social media. Do that crap in private, guys. Send DMs in private. Don't sit there and say, oh, Jake Painter can kiss my ass. I'll go ahead and say it right here on yeah, kiss my ass, Jake Painter. I can't wait to get you in the ring. Regardless, don't sit there and go, oh, on the podcast, well, me and him, we're actually best friends outside of wrestling and all this and all that. That's the reason, that's the reason I made the statement earlier. And then, and if you know some idiot like Bill Hazelwood, don't be afraid to give him a hard time either. I mean, good God.
Not Bill Hazelwood.
Not Bill Hazelwood. No, not the guy that talks 95 miles an hour. It talks as fast as what they qualify at Daytona for the Daytona 500. Jesus.
Well, Scotty, I really appreciate you trying to hold on to the business and protect it the way that you've protected it with what you've said today. I think the business is too exposed now. There's too much of everybody knowing what's going on in the background, everybody knowing what's this and what's that. And, I really kind of hate on reality TV for this is because, it was a true storyline. And Jerry Jarrett used to say something all the time to go back on the point that you made, hell, son, we can't miss you if you won't go away. So if you're not willing to travel, if you're not willing to go somewhere and you're not willing to make a name for yourself in different areas, then you're not willing to be in the business very long. And I hate that the business has got exposed the way it's got exposed, but it's still true today. If you're not willing to travel, you're not going to last in the business very long because you'll just be 30 miles from your house and that's all you'll do.
Well, also talking about that, think about the things that actually draw in the wrestling business, so to speak. Okay. Let's go back. What made 2-3 years ago? What was the biggest and best story? Excuse me, I got to put this a little bit back in a little bit better. But what made for the best wrestling TV back, around this time? It was the Cody Rhodes finish the story. Do you know why that resonated with so many people? Think about it. It was because it was real. It wasn't, it was, and not to expose the business, but guys, keep it as real as you can. I mean, I understand that, so I'm not one of these that says, oh, you got to, babies and heels can't take pictures together, yada, yada, yada. Listen, think about it this way. You don't think the last fight that Mike Tyson, Logan, or Jake Paul fight, or Tyson and Anthony, or not Tyson, the Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua fight, you don't think the whoever was putting that on sold some pictures and some meet and greets for $15,000 to $100,000 or whatever it was that they paid, and they got to go meet Mike Tyson and Jake Paul at the same time, and those guys and they're ready to tear each other's heads off. So that's not breaking kayfabe. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is don't sit there and act like you're going to rip somebody's head off and then be best friends with them right afterwards. I mean, we still got to draw money, guys. We still got to put butts in seats. And if they ride down the road and they see you or they see you on social media going, oh my God, man, that was such a great match. Thank you so much for that match. Well, you just told everybody that everything was that you just did was complete crap. And why should anybody pay to see it again?
Right. Exactly.
But at the same time, you don't need to take yourself so seriously either, to where, and whenever I walk into your house, it's nothing but a shrine to you. Don't be it's okay to be a mark for yourself to an extent, but at the same time, like, there are other things other than, I don't want to say other than wrestling, but there are some other things, we all have interests outside of wrestling. It's okay to let some people in so that they can make that connection with you. I like to hunt and fish. I like a great premium cigar. I like to hang out with my buddies on a Friday or a Saturday night that I'm not wrestling. So those things, and don't take those things for granted. But at the same time, everything in life needs balance. But yeah, let's protect the business, guys. Let's get it back to like to finish the story, like CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Where when Punk came back and he had ginormous heat on him in the locker room. That's what made that story, that program.
It made
it
want to be watchable again.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to do things like that, because if you don't, then we go back to the days where even WWE is having a hard time putting 3,000 to 5,000 people in the crowd. That was just what that was before COVID.
Yeah,
WWE was 6 years ago.
Yeah, just a couple of years ago, not too far back at all. And it took them a while to build it back, to get their audience back. The audience was wanting to come back, but it just took them forever because people were scared and the storylines weren't where they needed to be, and it just wasn't believable. And they had to go back to what worked.
Yep. And I mean, I think the best storyline in that time was two old heads, Edge and Randy Orton. And that's because there was a level of believability to that. So, bring that back, guys. Make it a little bit believable. Hey, don't get mad if the guy really lays it in a little bit, especially if you're right there in front of the crowd. I don't want somebody going, hey, he didn't even hit that guy. I mean, guys, lay it in, show a little bit of something, and then don't be afraid to go other places. Let's end the sermon. Now let's all have an altar call and come to the front and pray for forgiveness of our sins and go and sin no more.
All right, Scotty, I'm going to give you last words here tonight. Go ahead and get them out.
Well, I'm going to say my last words about a few people. One, we'll take the most recent or the soonest, and we'll go from there. So one, Jake Painter, you come to Marion, North Carolina. Listen, you're going to find out why I only see spotlights and spotlights only see me. To risk stealing another line, I've got the body that the men fear and the women cheer. Okay, we don't have to worry about. We're not on the grand stage, but you know what? I might be there soon. It's way sooner than you would like. And whenever I'm there, Jake, I'm going to be a thorn in your side. And that's okay. That's okay. I guess that's a little bit of that Napoleonic little man syndrome there. You've got to punch up, so to speak. You got to find somebody. You got to knock them down. Well, you're going to do a lot of knocking. But I'm going to tell you something, Jake. Whenever, I'll go ahead and tell you, like Clubber Lang said in Rocky III, I make one prediction that night: pain. Now let's move on. February 28th, the next week, King Bodie. I guess, legend in your own mind, I guess you and another certain someone at TNA have decided to declare themselves kings. Kid, we've locked horns once or twice, and I can't wait to get my hands on you again. I'm going to have a shot at your title in Gastonia, North Carolina, and I can't wait. I'm not trying to sound too much like a bad guy or anything here, but I've seen the way you treat the crowd, and if you think that you're going to treat me that way, if you think you're going to treat me the way you treat the fans, if you think that you're going to treat me the way you treated other competitors in the past, son, I will slap you so hard that your eyes will cross and you will see both ends of the week, and your mama will fall out of the recliner out of her house. Thirdly, hey, there's some rumblings right now. Frankie Kazarian, early May. Frankie, you want that match? I want that match. You want to even the score? I want to show everybody that I should be at TNA, that I should be there. Frankie Kazarian, just because I'm up 2-1, just because you're injured right now. We all saw the picture on social media where you had surgery, where you've been wrestling since December with a broken metacarpal in your right hand. Frankie Kazarian, that's fine. I want you to heal up. I want you to do the necessary physical rehabilitation that you need. Because I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I know how to beat you. I've beaten you in the past, and I can't wait to use you as my stepping stone on the way up. I think I have the utmost respect for you. To me, you are the Bret Hart of TNA. You are the man. And I can't wait to prove myself once again against you. With that being said, when the music hits, the argument's over.
Excellent. I am Joseph Hughes, the Arabbidb3aver of professional wrestling. He is Spotlight Scotty Brooks. Thank you for joining Wrestle Talk with Arabbidb3aver tonight. And remember, you guys heard it right here first on Wrestle Talk with Arabbidb3aver. Stick with me, Scotty. We'll be right back.